So you may be thinking, obviously Eagle is going to be signed with MVP, it only makes sense, but there are a lot of other factors at play that may make this actually a kind of crazy signing if it is with somebody else. So with that, let's hypothesize who could be taking down Eagle. All right, so let's go over briefly, why does MVP seem like kind of a lock and why everyone thinks it is MVP? Obviously, it's going to be MVP. So these signs definitely point to MVP because the way Eagle was talking, it definitely seemed like brand new plastic, a new feel, a welcoming presence. It seemed like a lot of things are pointing to the new lineup for MVP discs. They have a lot of overmolds. They have a lot of fun stuff to try. They have obviously Simon, so that would bring back the Crush Boys. And it is definitely happening late in the season, which probably will not happen with a smaller company. It has to be somebody that can really afford Eagle. So it does kind of feel like this has probably been in the works for a while now. And a lot of people are saying, well, obviously Conrad has MVP, Simon has Axiom, and Streamline still has nobody essentially being their flagship player. And while I do think that kind of makes sense, I also think looking at Streamline's lineup, there really is just not that much to it. Basically, the top disc being Trace, Drift, and Pilot. And I don't even know if that's like what people would consider their top lineup because people don't really talk about Streamline all that much. And then Axiom has a huge lineup with Envy, Time Lapses, Pyro, and the Hex, which are definitely the staples for Simon's whole lineup. And then if you count Glitch, which is I think MVP, there's so much money being funneled to MVP with all of Simon's Signature Series discs. And so the idea of them being able to afford a person like Eagle is just extremely plausible. Is it 100%? Definitely not. But all the signs do point to it. There's a lot of rumors about it. And especially looking at Conrad's recent seasons, they have not been stellar. I don't think he's sold a lot, even though he has like 4 or 5 Signature Series discs. So there's just a lot of potential for room to grow because it really can't just be Simon. Like having one more player will really cement them as a top tier brand for many years to come. But with that said, they might just not have the budget. Like I'm sure they made a lot of money. They can probably afford him, but it might be a bit of a stretch. And also one thing to note is that as an MVP player, they make Thought Space, they make Mint. So there's definitely a potential for Eagle to not only throw all the MVP lineup, but also TSA and Mint. So that would be insane if he was able to throw like 5 different brands, which I really don't think is probably too impactful for why Eagle would make this decision, but it does give him more ability to be creative and figure out new shot shapes and figure out a whole new way of playing disc golf compared to how he has been in the past, because he did say he was so excited about trying new stuff and new plastic. But the next company does seem like a bit of a stretch, but the more that I think about it, the more I can definitely see it as a potential possibility, and that is Discraft. You may be thinking like they have that huge contract with Paul, that's like 10 years. They have so many freaking players on their elite team. And while that is true, we might not see peak Paul for a year or two with his injury. He has a lot of stuff going on with family, foundation, his course. There's just a lot of stuff at play. So while Discraft does have Ezra, they have Brody, they have Adam Hammis, they have Chris, they have AB, they have Aaron Gossage, there is no real top player at the moment. There are definitely people that can rise and shine, like the Corey Ellises, and win a major, but there is no top elite player. There is just a lot of players that might potentially win 1 to 2 Tour Series events throughout the year. And that is definitely good, but if you are someone like Discraft that has a lot of money to throw around, it does seem like a potential possibility that we might get Eagle to sign with Discraft, which in conjunction with everyone else on the team would probably give them as a company more wins than anyone else on tour for years to come. And while Tour Series wins aren't really the end all be all, it definitely would potentially put them over the edge and make them bigger than Innova, which is probably their ultimate goal. And even though Eagle is definitely not European, he definitely represents a certain part of European disc golf because he has so much love from people in the Nordic states, and a lot of people that were throwing Discmania in Europe probably have a strong fondness towards Eagle, so the idea that Discraft wants some of that European presence is definitely a potential. But to round it all off, we have one crazy acquisition if it were to happen. If this was a bet, this would probably be like a 100-to-1 bet, but you know, anything's possible in the signing world, and especially when it comes to top elite players, anything can happen. Looking back at when James signed with MVP, everyone thought that was totally insane because they're such a small company, and now look at them being so mainstream. So with that, the last potential company is Kastaplast. This is probably a company that you have not really thought about all that much. They did get bought out by House of Disc. They are a European-based company. They have great plastic. I did notice that the recent blends of Kastaplast seem to be a little bit lower quality than what I preferred in older runs, but they definitely do have a lot of money that they could potentially throw at Eagle, and it does kind of support the idea that Eagle is going with Latitude 64 because I think Kastaplast is like under Latitude 64. There's a lot of things at play because House of Disc owns all these brands, and then Latitude 64 I think owns Kastaplast, I don't really know, but whatever, they are in that general umbrella. So I definitely think while it would be totally insane, there are no top elite pros throwing Kastaplast. Even though everyone loves them, they have so much support. And I definitely recommend, if you guys have not thrown Kastaplast yet, you need to, because it is truly the most premium brand. I remember in 2020, I actually bought Kastaplast through a player. It was like, felt shady because I had to like DM somebody on Reddit, and then he sent me this, which felt just bizarre, but I've been throwing them ever since, and I have been loving them, and I'm sure Eagle is fully aware that Kastaplast lineup is really, really good, and it might allow him to throw the rest of Latitude 64 if he wants to do that. And like I said before, there are no top elite pros on Kastaplast, so getting a major name out there to support this brand and prop up everyone in the House of Disc does seem like it might actually be what is going down. But like so many people have pointed out, if there's smoke, there's probably fire, and with so much evidence going towards MVP, it is most likely that we get the Crush Boys reunited at MVP. But with that said, do you guys have any thoughts about Eagle actually joining Kastaplast or Discraft? It would be totally insane, but anything is possible. So with that, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.